We're here with two-time boxing world champion Jesse James Leija. James, thanks for meeting with us today.
Thanks for being here.
We look back at your boxing career as a pretty impressive career. You fought a lot of well-known fighters: Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, Oscar De La Hoya, Costa Zoo, Azuma Nelson a number of times. What do you think was your most? What do you think was your toughest fight?
Uh, it's hard to say which is the toughest fight because they were all pretty much tough on their own. Uh, Luis Espinosa, one of the toughest fights I had, just a grueling fight with Luis Espinosa. With Troy Dorsey's fight was tough. Francisco Bojaro fight was really tough. The Costa Zoo fight wasn't as tough because, he really didn't hurt me. I just had a busted eardrum and a busted rib from training. Just those things like that. But, they're all pretty much, and some guys we don't even know names of that we haven't heard names of that were tough because, they just don't have anything to lose and they give you everything they have, and you don't train as hard for them because they're not as, their record's not as, as good as my record or whatever, and you take it easy. It's a tune-up fight, and tune-up fights turn out to be the toughest fight sometimes. But I've had so many tough fights. Every single fight with Azuma Nelson was tough. 42 rounds with him was a living hell with Azuma Nelson. So, I just had all those type of fights. So it's really hard to say which was the toughest. I kind of tell, it's almost like saying which one of your kids you like the most. It's kind of hard to pick,
Okay, then who hit the hardest?
Definitely Oscar De La Hoya. He hit me the hardest out of any fighter that I fought. And Arturo Gatti was a tough puncher too. But one of the things with Arturo Gatti, I didn't spar for 4 weeks prior to the fight, so it was kind of hard getting hit by a good puncher. And not having been in sparring recently. It's almost like a baseball player never taking batting practice and going to a big game and getting pitched on. He doesn't have trouble, and I had trouble with Arturo's power.
And speaking of Oscar De La Hoya, do you have any insight of how things are going over at Golden Boy right now with the exit of Richard Schaefer?
You know what? We had a meeting with Oscar a couple of months ago, and he said that we're going to be bigger and better. Golden Boy is going to be bigger and better than before. We're going to sign all the top fighters that we can. And he has the #1 fighter in the world. Well, he's going to have the #1 fighter in the world because Shane Mosley's going to. Mayweather's only going to be around for another 1 or 2 years. He has Canelo for the next 12 years. So Canelo's a good drawing power, and we're going to have him for a while. So as I said, we don't have anything to worry about. And Canelo looked great in his last fight, in a tough fight with Lara. But he's still going to get bigger and better fights, and we hope to bring him to San Antonio sometime.
There was a lot of controversy in that fight. Who do you believe won that fight?
Oh, you know what? I've been saying this all along. Amateur boxing and professional boxing are two entirely different sports. It's not scored the same. And if it was the Olympics, Lara wins the fight easy. It's not the Olympics. It's pro boxing where the aggressive guy, the guy's landing the harder punches, the guy's taking more control of the ring, he's going to win the fight. That's professional boxing. Amateur boxing is a pity pats, land the punch, and get out. And that's not what we do. That's not how you score pro boxing.
And talking about pro boxing, you have a show coming up August 7th in Corpus Christi, Texas. Jerry Belmontes versus Abner Cotto. Tell me a little about that fight.
Well, Abner's coming off a fight, a very tough loss with Figueroa, and I haven't seen that fight, but I hear a lot of people saying that should have won the fight, and I haven't seen it, but from what I hear is that it was a real tough fight. But here you go again. Here's where maybe those judges are seeing the amateur style of pity pats and running, pity pats and move, opposed to the aggressive fighter going forward, landing the harder punches and trying to take the fight to the fight. It's a fine line, but there's two different ways in how you score Olympics and professional boxing. And that's why I think that the United States amateur boxing is going to revamp their training and add a little bit more power, be more of a pro style, but at a faster pace, instead of an amateur style and just pity pats and move. And I think that's why the United States has had trouble in the Olympics recently because they stuck to that amateur style. They're going to get away from that and change it up.
And also on that card on August 7th, you have a couple local fighters, one being Jairo Castaneda and Joseph Rodriguez.
Joseph's not going to be on that card. Joseph's going to be in the later card, probably in November. Jairo's been in here, for the last year and a half, and he's looking great. He's a kid with a lot of power. He's just a real big guy for a 147-pounder. And I see good things happening with him. As long as he stays in the gym, keeps his weight down. He's a big guy, and he makes 147. He's almost 6 foot tall, and he's thick. He's a big guy. So, but he has a good head on his shoulders, and he knows the fight game. Been fighting since he was a kid, so he has a lot of experience, and we see good things with him. Joseph, on the other hand, is a guy who does everything right. His technique is great, power in both hands, and he's the guy that you look at, you're impressed. When you see him train, you're impressed. You see him fight, you're even more impressed.
Can we expect to see them on the big stage in the near future?
Oh yeah, I think those are the guys that Leija Batar are going to stand behind with our other guys as well, and just push them and see if we can make world champions out of them.
Okay. And I know that San Antonio has a lot of local talent coming up through the rankings in the professional boxing scene. What do you think about San Antonio's pool?
We got good fighters in the amateurs and good pros coming up. Even Kendo Castaneda, Jairo's brother, is a good fighter with a lot of experience, and he has 60 or 70 fights under his belt. And we have some other fighters here that are turning pro. And even my son's going to turn pro probably early next year. We just got to try to get him some. He started late like I did. He only has 13, 14 amateur fights, but he does everything so well in training. He's a perfectionist, and it's all about technique. And if we can get that technique down, we can build him up in the pros, just like they did with Chavez Jr. So we got a lot of good guys, and I'm just encouraged about what I see and the work ethic that some of these young guys have. But it's not about, I always tell my guys, it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. And we try to make them work smart, eat right, sleep right, don't be drinking in the weekends, and take care of your body now, and you'll have a long career. I had a 17-year pro career and 2.5 years as an amateur, so I went a long way but it's only because I did things the right way, and I worked hard, and I didn't cheat my body out of being fit.
Yeah, you just brought up Kendo Castaneda, who's now doing the bare knuckle boxing.
Matter of fact, I'm going to go up to Vegas and work his corner on bare knuckle boxing.
And also Brian Vera and Gabriel Rosado. What do you think of the new bare knuckle boxing coming out?
I think it's not going to take away from boxing, because people are so used to doing boxing is incredible. It's not going to take away from boxing, but it's just a different aspect. It's almost like arena football and NFL football. Which one do you like? You see arena football and it's non-stop action, it doesn't stop. That's going to be the what do you call it, the bare knuckle boxing, where it's non-stop action in a small little confined quarters to fight, opposed to the NFL where they have a big football field and they get to play. So it's almost like arena football and regular football. They're both action-packed, but the arena football is just a little bit more faster pace, less technique, more punching, really like an MMA kind of. But it gives other fighters opportunities to make money in a different venue, a different setting. So that's good. Anytime a fighter can make money, I'm all for it.
Okay, great. And who can we expect to see coming to San Antonio to fight on the big stage in the future?
We're hoping to bring Canelo back, hopefully this year or early next year. We're working on that hard with Oscar and Golden Boy. We want to continue bringing big time boxing to San Antonio. So we just had a setback because Bono was supposed to be here in November, and after the last fight here with Maidana, he didn't want to fight in Texas. He's had such a bad taste in his mouth. He does not want to fight in Texas. And you're probably the first one to hear this, because I heard the news yesterday, and so we're kind of heartbroken about him not coming here. But we're going to bring some other guys. We're working on some other stuff with Golden Boy and trying to bring some big boxing here.
We were at the Mayweather-Maidana press conference at Fiesta, Texas earlier in the week, and Mayweather said that he would like to fight in San Antonio. Do you think that could be a possibility, or?
Sometimes these guys say that just because that's what the fans want to hear. But I'm hoping we hold him to that, or he holds himself to that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm hoping that something can happen with Golden Boy and bringing him back here to San Antonio and fill up 70,000 people at the Alamodome.
And you and Mike Bata are at the forefront of building San Antonio boxing right now.
Yeah.
Where do you see San Antonio boxing going in the near future, or even the future?
Well, Hank, I think, with this Mayweather-Maidana press tour, they only picked 5 cities, and San Antonio is one of them. That means one of the top 5 boxing cities in the United States, and that's saying a lot for us only, promoting for the last couple of years. But it's also of what we've done before. I've been, Ayala started off, and then, we had some great fighters, Paulo Ayala, Mike Tony, they started off, and then we had Robert Quiroga, John Michael Johnson, and myself in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then now we're starting off again with these young fighters, and with Mike and I bringing big boxing back. And, it's going to keep going. We're just going to make it bigger and better.
Great. Thank you for your time, Jesse James.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.